There you go. Different tone.
A few moments.
Minus 73 dB. Yeah, okay.
There you go. That's perfect. I just bought a room tone pack recently. No. You should sell your room tone. That's your next digital product.
You guys got too much noise in your studio? Don't worry, you can buy Gerald's room tone. Okay, Mark.
Hey.
Mark Bone.
Mark Bone.
What are you doing here? What you got?
I was inspired by a fitness video I saw from Jeff Nippard where they were underrating and overrating different.
I saw this video.
Yeah.
That's why I was down for this idea.
You have a skill set where you're very highly technical and you look into things at a much more granular level than I ever do with my camera gear. And that's why I often come to your channel.
I'll accept that.
Do you take that as a compliment? I try to learn camera and gears to a certain stage to the point that it's not interrupting my workflow in the storytelling side. But I wanted to take our two sets of knowledge, the on-set experience and the technical side, and look at different pieces of gear and say, is this overrated? Is this underrated?
And we also just, not to spoil the plot, but we just recorded another version of this on, what would you call them, like camera features?
Camera features, yeah. If you're gonna buy a camera, does this feature matter?
And we already did all the overrated, underrated on that.
That
was a fun video, and that will be posted on the other guy's channel. Yeah, exactly.
This one right here.
The one that we're linking to now.
Which I think that channel is very underrated.
That's right. So if you watch one of these and you like that one, go watch the other one on the other channel. And this is how we're cross-pollinating. Cross-pollinating?
Cross-pollinating. That wasn't. This is how we're artificially inseminating our channel. All right.
All right, what do you got
first topic, 32-bit float recording.
Oh, I love this one. And there's a lot of people that love to say this, and I'm happy to fight them about it.
Can I do this?
Sure.
I'm just going to right off the top say this because I'm not using it in my current workflow, but I do see the value in it, and being able to, audio is the most important thing. I would say arguably even more than dynamic range on your camera is having a clear human voice. So I think,
I sure hope this sounds good then.
So I'm with you. I think it is underrated. I need to be full disclosure. I'm just recording right into my FX6 most of the time.
So I like that. I think that this argument that people often make is that you can totally do it without, get good at it. 24-bit is a huge amount of dynamic range. You got safety tracks, you got this and that. That's all true. But here's what I know. Two things I think get skipped. There is better noise performance generally on, not across the board, but it's not so much about the 32-bit floating point. And I think that's where these guys get all hung up. It's about the fact that in order for a recorder to achieve that, they often have dual ADCs. And the fact that you're doing one at a low level, one at a high level, means that you can generally marry them together and maximize noise performance against also not clipping, because so I've been finding that when I compare similar hardware, one that has the dual ADCs and one that doesn't, the noise floor is lower on the 32-bit recorder.
Interesting.
Which, I find to be an advantage that isn't spoken about much. And then the other one is just that you don't have to set the gain. I'm not trying to say don't know how to use your gear. Like I think you should use your gear well, but sometimes you're like, look, I don't know what this situation's going to be.
It's more forgiving.
I'm pressing record and we're going and it'll be fine. And that's come in handy on the studio tours that I do,
Micro Four Thirds sensors.
This feels like a setup.
I don't even know who's saying it's great. To me, I'm not a fan.
Here's what I would say. That overall, which is this Micro Four Thirds sensors, overrated. There are aspects of the cameras that tend to be Micro Four Thirds sensors that have incredible feature sets that are only available on the Micro Four Thirds cameras.
Like stabilization?
Yeah, like the GH7 stabilization, honestly.
You actually don't have to even hold it anymore.
Yeah,
it floats.
It is crazy good to where you'd be like, if I could only get that on Micro Four Thirds and it has value to you, then it's as underrated as it could be, right? But everything else to me kind of smells a little bit like copium. And I feel like the community of Micro Four Thirds shooters is incredibly overrated.
I think it's overrated mostly because you then have to have Micro Four Thirds lenses, and to me, that's very limiting.
Also, they talk about size. They're not smaller. The lenses are smaller, but the cameras are massive, and the packages overall, like if you compare to a Sony full frame, where you can get these big lenses, but say you put a 35-1.8 on a A7 IV or A7S III, that package is smaller than a Sigma 16 1.4, whatever you have to get to try to get on a GH6 whatever. That's a bigger package.
It is.
So don't tell me about travel and all this other nonsense, There was certainly a time where video was better on Micro Four Thirds just because of we couldn't deal with it on full frame. Now the full frame's caught up significantly. There's fewer reasons for Micro Four Thirds, and so I think they lean into those aspects, and the aspects they lean into are still fantastic.
Yes.
Hey, f1.8.
There you go. f1.8 over 2.8 lenses. You know, when you're like looking to buy and you know, like Sigma has their 28 to 45 is 1.8. No, I'm gonna go this.
Yeah.
Underrated.
2.8 is fine. It's plenty. Now, sometimes a 1.8 at 2.8 looks better than a 2.8. So, I mean,
Yes.
you know, I can't take that away. But if it just comes a question like, do you need a 1.8 lens to get the job done? For me, generally, no. I think that these days, mildly overrated.
Yeah, I'm not as do or die about it anymore now that there has been this amazing introduction of super sensitive sensors. But 1.8 for me, while I'll say it's underrated, is just having that flexibility. Like on this doc I'm shooting, we're backstage and it was like super dark, and just knowing on some of my lenses, it's like, oh, could I? Or I was on the 24 to 70, I was like, oh, I wish I had like 1.8 right now. And I also really love 1.8 for interviews sometimes. You're in someone's home and you don't want the background to be seen. So having that extra depth of field. And then also too, you can match it with cinema lenses, because usually cinema lenses are like 1.2. So I just think being able to partner it with other lenses.
Actually, the Sony 35mm catalog is a great place to start of like what a 1.8 can do for the price versus what a 2.8 can do.
You know? Remember the Nifty 50 from Canon?
Oh man, I do.
Yeah,
you know?
It was like there was different versions of it all the way up to their L series, which was much sharper.
Yeah.
Editing consoles.
Okay, for a minute there, I thought one of those was a little Stream Deck, and I'm like, I got one here as a camera switcher. But that's not what you're talking about.
Overrated. Having the editing shuttle thing is great, but I also just have a mouse, and then I also have my Apple trackpad, so it does the same thing. So
I think it maybe depends on who you are, and I don't mind flexing on the haters right here.
Yeah.
I edit like the wind, Mark. So you give me one of these things, you could show me your best, like insert person, show me your best console usage, and then I'm gonna show you something, and you're gonna be like, "How does he do it?" It looks like I'm playing Counter-Strike competitively or whatever, and the timeline just...
You don't touch the mouse. Incredible.
So get these gimmicks out of here.
Yeah.
One aspect of editing video that I don't feel is overrated and that can definitely speed up or improve your workflow is a subscription to Storyblocks, the sponsor of today's video, a stock media platform that offers unlimited downloads of diverse and high-quality content for one predictable subscription cost. And if you're making a collab video like me, you can even download a replacement guest that is much more agreeable. But Storyblocks offers a whole lot more than just clips of enthusiastic participants. In fact, their library houses over 1 million HD and 4K video files, images, and motion graphics templates. And jokes aside, those motion graphics have actually saved me time on previous projects, especially now that they added DaVinci Resolve templates, much better than my previous and tedious method of making those graphics in Photoshop and then animating them in the Edit tab using keyframes. Plus, anything you download from Storyblocks is 100% royalty-free with clear-cut licensing, so you can focus on creating, not worrying about usage rights. The platform is incredibly easy to use, and the library is frequently restocked with commissioned content based on customer demand to ensure you'll have access to files that are not only high quality, but fresh and diverse. So to get started with unlimited stock media downloads at one set price, head to storyblocks.com/undone or click the link in the description.
SSDs.
In what capacity?
Just as a backup tool, just having them, not as an internal thing on your computer, because I don't know who has a spinning disk laptop anymore.
SSDs are underrated.
Have you ever dropped your laptop before? No, I just mean in general, I guess I kind of wanted to put in there because I've had a lot of SSD failures. So I'm going to say right now they're a bit overrated. Of course, they're underrated in terms of transfer speeds, but I find it never works that well. I find it's overheating and then the throttling comes in, or that there's been issues. Name any company, I've had issues with the SSDs lately. And I guess maybe I am the limiting factor because I am the consistent thing in the equation.
I think I'm just going to let you have this one because it seems like you just needed to get some off your chest about SSDs.
DaVinci Resolve.
I mean, it's been out for a while now, but I'm still in this camp.
It's tough because it is free. And
although
so,
the free one isn't as capable.
Good.
Yeah,
no,
like,
but still then you pay for it once.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know, $2.99 or something like that. Or buy a Pocket 4K and get it for free
Yeah,
forever.
Exactly. Yeah, no, just buy the camera, throw the Pocket 4K, and keep the software. That's what I would do. As an NLE, highly overrated. As everything else, completely underrated and amazing value.
A couple things that are less important now, but that I think really sort of earned it this place. One, I like the software. And I think a lot of that has to do with, like, do the designers speak a similar language to you? Like, does it feel right? Does it whatever? Yeah. So I like that. But also there was a period there as a lifelong PC user, DaVinci Resolve really, really let you leverage your gaming hardware. And the value for that, it's incalculable for me.
You're convincing me. I think it is
And
underrated.
no subscription.
And no subscription.
Get out of here with the subscription.
Which leads us to this right away.
Creative Cloud Suite.
Oh, it's so tough because we use it for so many things.
Yeah, I mean, this is the Google. What's a good substitute for Photoshop? You know what I mean? And
Nothing.
It's like, there's nothing. Like, yeah, there's things. The one you can't, like, I'm glad that Resolve is a very good substitute for Premiere Pro.
Yes.
But Photoshop, man, like,
Yeah,
you are going to be limited if you're not on Photoshop because the tutorials and the database and, like, presets and everything, it's all Photoshop. And then Lightroom, like, it's...
Lightroom's great. I love that I can just, like, pass between Lightroom and Photoshop really easy. They talk to
These guys got you in a chokehold, and they know it.
I'm going to say the Creative Cloud suite as a whole is maybe perhaps overrated because there's so many pieces of software in
It was good before it was a Creative Cloud suite. That's when it was good.
I know, exactly.
But you bought Photoshop.
And I think Acrobat Reader is so overrated. I think it's, I
do like it for the documents when somebody be like, can you quickly sign this NDA or whatever?
Yeah.
In Acrobat, I can just like hit like signature, drag it, and then save and send it. That's one thing I do.
But that's what I can do that with Preview. I have my signatures.
What's Preview?
What?
Preview's Apple. Oh, so Apple.
So on Windows, I like
on my Windows. No, but in Preview, I have my signature saved, so I drag it down. But Acrobat, I think, lets you edit the PDF. So it depends what you're talking about.
The question isn't, does Adobe have good software? Adobe's got great pieces of software, but the Creative Cloud suite is Creative Cloud shite. If I just change that
Matte boxes. It depends the scenario, but I would say overall, if you're just getting into filmmaking, people put matte boxes on their cameras, and I don't even see them having a single drop-in filter.
You know why? It's because it gets you can charge more.
They're like, I put this matte box on, and I look more pro. Underrated in the sense that if you like professional 4x5 filters that are very, very expensive and you want to put them in, it's great. And if you want to have a French flag on the camera, then... But for me, I think it's overrated because everyone's like, well, it gets rid of the flares. I want the flares. Bring on the flares.
Right. I agree with you. The only underrated element, I think, is that NDs are so much nicer on a matte box than they are these screw-on VND dual
ProRes.
ProRes.
Get the crazy stuff in the corners.
Just drop in a high-quality sheet of glass and move on. But otherwise, I mean, you're messing around with the whole thing.
Oh, I can't wait for this one, Gerald.
Okay.
This is my name for them. Digital Matchbox mics.
Okay. So like DJI, Rode.
Yeah, these ones that you see, the influencers. Or I'm seeing a lot more people use them. Hard stop. Overrated. Not only are they usually 2.4 gigahertz, so there's the chance for interference, I think the quality of them is shite. And I think the application of them is ugly. And then I think for me as a documentarian working on set, I love that you don't have a mic on your desk here. You hide the mic. I'm always trying to hide the mic because the second the mic is there, you're reminding people are performing. People are getting captured on camera. I want it to be invisible. Influencers now, they have them like underneath their shirt and it's like sticking out like this, or they have the big furry little like thing there. So it's...
Yeah, so I agree with you on, I hate all that stuff.
Yes,
yes. But I do think for a content creator, maybe slightly underrated in maybe like whatever you would call like the democratization of like getting better audio than they would otherwise.
Yes,
you know?
But at the end of the day, I just think it's so...
I don't like this either.
And when people hold it so close to my mouth, I just find it's peaking the entire
also,
time.
if you're wearing a t-shirt and you do the magnet part, it does this like weird droop thing on your t-shirt. And I hate this. I like a nice tight collar, and those things mess me up.
And I just think it's like you should be learning how to hide a mic because if you're aspiring to grow in your filmmaking, you're eventually going to be on a set and it will be unacceptable.
But you're wearing a ball cap. What about the old, you seen this one lately?
Yeah, I know. I see that one. I see that one for a lot of people in the gym. You know what I did recently is I hid a mic on someone's purse. That was awesome. Actually just put it on the outside of the purse and we put the mic pack through like the little eyelet into their purse. And that's how we got their audio and it sounded great. All except when they were like, running. But when does it ever sound good? Threaded UV filters. You know when you meet a certain type of photographer and every one of their lens has a UV filter.
I mean, protect your front element, sure, but
it's just a lens cap though, so maybe it's underrated. You have a lens cap, so all my lenses have scratches on the front element. Literally.
Here's the thing: scratches on the front element don't even really matter that much.
No,
shooting at f/22 or whatever.
Exactly. But but don't most sensors have a UV filter built onto them now?
Oh, the UV part is nonsense.
Yes,
that's film.
Yeah,
it's digital. Digital kind of made that.
Yeah.
Honestly, you could just get a clear filter if you're worried about anything. Like a clear filter would be fine. So if you're wearing it for protection, put a hood on. It's better in every way. This sounds like innuendo a little bit in here.
You want to know how to protect something? You wrap it up.
If you're worried about protection, put a hood on.
You want to protect it.
Camera cages.
In most cases, I'm gonna go underrated.
I'm gonna say this. Because I have an FX3, all my vlogging and all my shooting, and when I put it on to...
you got the cage built into your camera. What are you talking about?
Exactly. Yeah, that's true. That is true. I haven't put one on for a while, so I'd say they're overrated, but foldable camera cages, very underrated.
I mean, to me, it's all the same question.
No, but that's the problem with the camera cages. If you bring it in, it's like just sits in your bag weird. Internal ProRes recording on the iPhone. I'm getting very specific here.
So I don't have an iPhone, but from what I've seen and heard from people whose opinion that I trust or whatever, it seems like it is sort of a game changer from making phone footage not look like phone footage anymore.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
I think HDR, I hate that Apple does that. I was just working with someone on my team today. They sent a cut and it was all HDR, just regular iPhone footage. Looked like trash because then and Adobe never works with it well. But ProRes on the iPhone, it's beautiful. Like there'll be times where I've been on a shoot and just we've gone ProRes on the iPhone and it looks amazing.
Patrick Tomas is a pretty big proponent of this. He's been shooting, there's many times where he shot like his main YouTube videos will go up and then afterwards he'll be like, well, I shot this whole thing on the iPhone using an Apple log or whatever. And it's like, wow, cool. I mean, like you fooled me. You know what I mean?
You never
like,
know.
Yeah.
360 cameras.
I've always been in this camp.
Oh, dang it. I wanted to pick this one up.
You labeled them. I've seen some cool stuff, but it always feels like a gimmick.
I'm with you. The only time I find them useful these days is when I put them on my cinema camera so that I can do a BTS. Yeah. If you have a wingsuit, please keep shooting the 360. It's amazing. I love your content, but I don't need it.
Yeah, same for me.
Prime lenses.
It's like, even if you like them, have prime lenses ever been underrated? Like, have they ever been underrated?
Well, I have this argument with people. They're like, we're on set. We're like, should we take 3 prime lenses or 1 zoom lens?
I guess that should be put zoom or prime on the thing. And zoom or prime.
Yeah, exactly.
So underrated means you like primes and overrated means you like zooms.
I'm going to wuss out here and do this. Just a little bit of an underrated, overrated. I think overrated in the sense of, yeah, cool, I have shallower depth of field, but for me, when I'm storytelling with a doc, being able to just punch and shoot your hands, punch and shoot your eyes, go out and get a wide, punch in and shoot that person's reaction, having that on a zoom lens and not having to move my feet, that's highly underrated.
So I agree with utility on a zoom lens, hard to beat. This camera's always got a zoom lens so we can crash in and do whatever, right? There's 2 reasons why I like prime lens. One is for the walking on your feet thing. If I am out for fun or for the art of it or whatever else, I'd actually rather have a prime lens. Yeah. So I get up in there, look at something a little different. I have to change my point of view a lot.
I feel that.
And then the other one is I like close focusing. I like having a short close focusing distance. Like the 35, that's the 35 G Master on that one, which I'm just using for this shot. But if I put that on my photo camera, walk around with it, I can get right up in the business and like get these cool wide angle but close shots and stuff. That's a prime lens feature. Yes. That there's not many zoom lenses that do that. And if you stop down to 2.8 on the prime, you're probably getting a sharper image than the 2.8 zoom.
Yes, probably. Having all your lights in your studio wired to one light switch on the wall.
That seems very specific.
Yeah, very specific. I don't know.
You see that purple star on the light switch over there?
I don't have it, so I wouldn't be able to speak to it, but I would say overrated. But
you can see everything in here is locked off. Yes. You know, I don't set up a microphone, I don't set up lights. Everything is just locked off. I have a seat. The seat doesn't usually, if it's only one person, the seat's in the same spot. I press on, record, sit, go.
Go for it. That is very underrated when I'm talking about YouTube is get the least amount of hurdles between you and the idea. Yeah. The way I get around that is I just have one light.
Right. So you still only press the one button.
LiDAR focusing systems.
I mean, because, I
hate to say it. They're cool, but when they're working.
And they have limits. They have a lot of limitations.
When they're working, it's really cool. When they're not.
And it's so what? So you can use your like 51.2 vintage lens or whatever, you know?
I know. I haven't. I've been like, this is cool. My Helios lens is now autofocus. And I'm like, slowly taking the gear off. And I'm going to camera sacks.
What's a camera sack?
That's those big poofy things you strap onto your body and you rest your camera on it. Like a cine saddle.
Never used one of those ever.
Oh, really? Then I know what you're going to choose.
I guess I would think it's overrated if I got
your stupid camera sacks. No, I switched over to this on set for my last film, and wow, it's like I have a separated shoulder, and so it's like I was getting a lot of pain in there. But having the camera rest there, it's completely underrated. I think it's like, to me, it's almost replaces shoulder rigs in most scenarios. And if you can choke up on your camera sack and have it near your face, then it's pretty much at eye level with people. But then you'd be like, well, why not just use a shoulder rig? Have you ever taken a shoulder rig off and then tried to go handheld and hold it at a certain angle? It's like, it's so heavy.
Also, I'm 6'4". Have you ever seen me shoot with a shoulder rig?
That's true. You're looking down on
I have one perspective.
You're perfect for my camera sack then.
It'd probably be better height,
then your chest is at everyone's eye level. That was the first thing I noticed because this is the first time I've been in the same room as you. I was like, oh, Gerald's tall. 5-in-1 reflector kits. I
love these things.
I love them too. They're the best. It's like you can just pull out diffusion, or you take the case and then suddenly you have blackout negative filter.
Yeah.
Like it's the best.
Shoot through it when you need like a really lazy like
Diffusion setup.
Yeah.
Well, I use my parabolic softbox on set, and then I put diffusion in front of the 5-in-1 diffuser. So yeah, absolutely underrated. Everyone should have the biggest one possible.
I was doing over in that setup over there. I have like a webcam kind of setup. The lighting isn't good, just pot lights in the ceiling, so you get those like things.
Yeah.
And I was shooting like a from the desk editor note kind of thing, and I was like, man, I really don't like the lighting here. So I was like, I'm not gonna set up a whole thing. So I just went and I think I grabbed a couple of these MC Pros, like little guys, and I grabbed my 5-in-1 reflector. I literally just wedged it between like my monitor and the side of my desk there. So it was there.
And just bounced it?
I just stuck a bunch of MC Pros in the microphone that are shooting up there, bounced out the reflector, hit me in the face, and I was like,
This looks
that'll
great.
work, you know? It's like that. And so many applications for that. I used to have them like in the ceiling, just like I'll get a staple gun real quick and be like, and just like have it kind of like, you can abuse them and you're like, that.
I know,
you know?
I know. It's great. They're like, you can get the biggest ones in the States for like $60. It's amazing.
I love them.
Monopods.
These days I don't use them anymore, but I have an instance in which they're clutch, but I don't ever feel overrated about a monopod.
5 months ago, I would have said underrated because we were using them a lot on set.
Yeah.
But I find now with the camera sack, they're overrated. Sliders.
I'm over it, man.
Yeah. Dang it. Do you know how I do all my slider shots in my office? But put a towel down, and I'll literally just like slide on the towel.
I've become a fan of the static shot.
There
you know,
you go.
like I started thinking of like, you know, how did Roger Deakins get away with it for so long? We're just like, nice frame.
Nice frame, no movement. I know. All right, last one, the Canon 5D Mark II.
I mean, is anybody rating it in 2024? I guess we are.
No, I wanted to give a shout out to that camera.
Okay.
I think it's underrated. It was what kind of the first full frame video camera in that format, unless someone's going to get in the comments.
It changed the game.
Changed the game. I shot every wedding on it for many years.
Remember that house episode? They were like,
oh yeah,
there was like a famous house episode
Yeah.
because they had to shoot in a collapsed tunnel, and they're like, we're going to use these Canon DSLR
Canon,
cameras, and then everybody was like, oh my god. And there was like other examples of people using them on like, you know, I think like Philip Bloom used one on like the Red Wings thing.
That's well. I mean, he used. I feel like it was a really interesting moment for Philip Bloom because he used to have his like lettuce adapter and all that stuff, and his like cameras would be this long, and he's like, "Look at the shallow depth of field." And then the 5D came along. He's like, "Yeah, this thing's also great." Awesome, Gerald. That is all the gear that I could actually think of.
Well, thanks for the list. Like I said on the other video, if you've watched that as
Yes.
well, go watch the other video. We have another video where we also talked about features of cameras.
And I actually learned a lot. I was kind of, this was all just a big ploy for me to learn more about the camera features I'm not sure about.
Well, you came to the wrong place. Thanks for coming, Mark.
I think this video is quite underrated.
Now we just have to we got to make a thumbnail where we're like holding up the sign or like,
yeah.
you know, like we're going to face or whatever. We won't bore you guys with that.
Yeah.
All right.
Goodbye. and because the time code drifted.
Yeah, exactly. We just did.
You both stood there when...
It was a clap. It was a clap. Those are claps.